Hello there, Brick Fanatics. When Disneyland first opened its doors in 1955, one of the very first attractions on offer was a dark ride called Snow White's Adventures. Anyone who ventured into the ride thinking that they were going to have a wonderful Snow White experience, including many small children, were utterly disappointed and indeed terrified by what they experienced. Because while Snow White's Adventures seemed to be a cute and fun family-friendly ride on the outside, once you got inside, you discovered that actually it was a scary ride. It was eventually renamed Snow White's Scary Adventures just to make sure that anybody who was about to get onto it knew exactly what they were getting into. Because according to early reports, many children screamed and cried their entire way around the ride because instead of seeing Snow White gallivanting with her little dwarven friends, instead the ride was from Snow White's perspective, so Snow White was not in the ride at all, and it was mostly focused on the evil witch instead, which, know your audience, Disney, you've kind of missed that one. Why do I bring up unintentionally terrifying Snow White stuff? No reason. Hey, let's have a look at LEGO 43242 Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs Cottage. Ah! Oh, I don't like it. Unfortunately, it seems that a lot of the minifigures of the Seven Dwarfs have fallen uncomfortably into the Uncanny Valley. I mean, they're just staring at you, like there's not an angry face among them. They're all so happy, which is fair for happy, but oh, I don't know. Oh, thank goodness Grumpy is actually grumpy. That's something of a relief, really. Ooh. By the way, if you want to avoid those creepy faces haunting your dreams tonight, there is one simple solution to banish monsters from your nightmares, and that is to hit the like button. I don't know how it works, but it does. I mean, it's kind of clear what's been done here from a graphic design perspective. The LEGO Group has attempted to kind of Legoify some very familiar Disney cartoon designs with mixed success, to say the least. And this is not something that we haven't seen before. Indeed, all the way back in the original collectible minifigure Disney series, the first one, we saw this kind of problem creeping in there as well. I mean, for example, here's the Robin Williams genie not looking much like the Robin Williams genie, just kind of stretched over a minifigure face, but missing a lot of his discernible features. And you do kind of get the sense that LEGO is in a bit of a rock and a hard place situation here, because then when they do, for example, just mould a Disney character's face, like Robin Hood, for example, and it's one single element, a lot of people tend to look at that and say, oh, well, it's missing some of the LEGO charm. So they're trying to find a balance here between being too LEGO for Disney characters to really look right, and being too Disney for LEGO characters to really look right, if that makes sense. And they ain't found that balance just yet. Some characters are easier to translate than others. Snow White looks absolutely fine. I mean, of course she does, because Snow White as a Disney character is a generic-looking, pretty female cartoon character. She doesn't have a lot of discernible features on her face anyway. This indeed is common with a lot of the kind of the more handsome or beautiful of the Disney characters. Just in their design, they're not meant to look particularly memorable. The memorable features of these characters is not, for example, their face. It's all about the dress, it's all about the hair, it's all about the clothes and the cape and the robes or whatever they happen to be wearing, more so than it is the specifics of their features. When you get some of the more stylized Disney cartoon characters, like the Seven Dwarfs, like the Genie, and like many others that just don't quite seem to translate very well into a traditional minifigure head, a lot of it is just lost when you strip things down to a pair of single dot eyes and then a smile or a grimace or whatever you happen to have on their face. Have you ever wondered, by the way, why the LEGO Group has taken this particular approach to faces? I mean, the minifigure has been around for so long now that it's hard to imagine anything else that they could possibly have done. But there is a reason, and it is a very good reason, why LEGO minifigure faces are as simple as they are, and indeed why they don't tend to fit with the ultra-stylized, kind of overly cartoonish, blown-up proportions of a Disney character. Indeed, to explore why the traditional LEGO minifigure face just doesn't suit a character like Doc or Sneezy, we have to talk about a book called Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud. I mean, there are other sources for this information, but to be honest, Scott McCloud's work is very succinct. In the book, McCloud talks about what it takes to make an image of a person identifiable and relatable to everybody. So if you, for example, take a photograph of one specific person, ta-da! That face, that picture, is really only relatable to one person. Now, true, somebody looking at this picture might see shades of themselves in it. They might look at it and say, oh yeah, that's vaguely like me, but they won't say, that is a picture of me. They will accept and recognize that that is somebody else's face. And yes, they might look similar, but they are not that person. Now, on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, you have, for example, a Lego minifigure face. And this smiley face, this very simple face, just two eyes and a mouth, is relatable to the vast majority of human beings on planet Earth. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter what you look like, so long as you have two eyes and a mouth, you can see yourself in that minifigure. Now, I do want to point out that not necessarily every single person will relate to two eyes and a mouth, and indeed the LEGO Group has been recently attempting to find different ways of representing people who might not necessarily see themselves as having two eyes, for example. Nevertheless, for most people on planet Earth, the minifigure face, as simple and as basic as it is entirely relatable. You can project yourself onto that face. You can definitely see yourself in this minifigure. Oh, by the way, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Just as a reminder, if we can make it to 100,000 subscribers before the Sanctum Sanctorum Lego set retires, I am going to open it up and build it in a video. The race is on. Help us to get there. What we've seen in the years since, though, is an attempt to broaden and expand the palette of potential minifigure expressions. The two dots and a mouth worked quite well for a very long time, but eventually LEGO started experimenting and adding a bit more character and a bit more expression to the minifigures. And particularly when doing licensed figures, it helped to make these minifigures actually look like the person that they were supposed to be representing. So if you look at like the early Star Wars stuff, it didn't really look specifically like Mark Hamill in the way that kind of a more modern Luke Skywalker minifigure does. I absolutely love the Sheev Palpatine from last year, who is just, that's Ian McDiarmid. It's perfect. It's absolutely wonderful. Another personal favourite, we've got, say, Ross Geller. That's, oh, it's just wonderful. Something about that way that face is put together. I really like John Cleese in ghost form. This is really just delightful as well. So when the LEGO Group has to, the graphic designers are so talented at making minifigure faces that look exactly like a person, even though they're just sticking to that same two dots and a mouth kind of broader design style. It's genuinely so impressive how much expression and how much detail that they can get in there with just a few lines. They're so talented, these artists. It's really wonderful. Where this all falls apart is where you try and apply this tremendously simple, tremendously relatable face design to characters that are absolutely not supposed to be relatable. One of the absolute joys of animation is that characters do not need to stick to the typical body and facial proportions that you would see on an actual human being. You can make the eyes larger, you can make the face wider and rounder, you can stretch it, you can squash it, you can do all kinds of things to really emphasize the unique characteristics that you're trying to get across in this character. There are two benefits to this. One is that it makes animation significantly more interesting to look at because you can just see the joyous cartoon stretchy elasticity of these characters in motion. The other side of it is that when you have really big eyes and a really big head and a really cartoonish body proportion, it looks more like a baby, and human beings are biologically programmed to adore babies because that's how we keep babies alive long enough for babies to stop being babies. It's a biological imperative, and animation kind of takes advantage of that by really playing with these character designs so that people just fall in love with them. I mean, who doesn't just absolutely adore Dopey? Alright, so some of these have aged better than others. What would be the solution then? I mean, we could have had custom molded headpieces as we do for a lot of other Disney characters, but that doesn't quite solve the problem, and a lot of people don't love those anyway because they just stop feeling like Lego once they get to a certain point of detail and a certain point of accuracy in recreating the Disney characters. At the same time, you can't really put more detail into a Lego minifigure without it stopping feeling quite as much like a Lego minifigure. There are some certain exceptions. Voldemort, for example, is one of them. I love that Voldemort is one of the only minifigures that has a prominent noticeable nose, because that's kind of his whole deal. Like, the memes are everywhere about how sad Voldemort is that he doesn't have a nose, and then he's one of the only minifigures that does have a nose. Could you have done that for the Seven Dwarfs? Potentially. At the same time, the more detail you put into these, sometimes the further you stumble down into Uncanny Valley. The specific problem with the Seven Dwarfs is that they're just so happy and smiley and bland, and it comes across a little bit like they're glassy-eyed, creepy dolls just staring at you. I don't think there is an easy fix to this. I think that the big challenge is always going to be there with these kinds of minifigure adaptations, where a character just isn't meant to be generic, and so when you strip it down to the Lego minifigure basics, it ends up just looking a little bit creepy. I mean, alright, one thing, you could have at least given them, like, sad faces so that they could all be sad when Snow White's in her little glass casket, because otherwise... I don't know, is there a way of making these things less creepy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, make sure that you do all of the other YouTube things. Make sure that you give the video a thumbs up, make sure that you subscribe, hit the notification bell, etc, etc. If you are going to be purchasing Snow White's Cottage, or indeed any other Lego set in the near future, make sure that you use the QR code, which is currently on screen, or the affiliate link, which is down in the description. Make sure that you go to brickfanatics.com for all of your Lego news, and make sure that you sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss anything Lego related ever again. Thank you for watching, and just no. No.